And then since this is the only meeting I'm at,
Did you
if
see
it's a
the-
short
see
meeting,
my
I'm gonna
sign?
say-
Total idiot. What's I doing over
I
here?
hung a sign up.
You did great. That's what got me
Okay,
over here.
good. Because it was
How are you?
on the website, it still said.
Amanda,
Committee meeting, thank you very much. It's the fourth meeting, yeah, you're right, it's the fourth meeting, we only have one more, that's right. Thank you, Chief, for joining us to talk about the fire capital plan. The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. So Patrick Purcell, serving as your fire chief. Thank you for having me tonight. Before I get started on my presentation, I just wanted to offer some information relative to a previous request, and I think you had some questions surrounding the fire station with AV and technology for that building. So one thing, I think that a piece of information that was important that you need to have if you are going to support the AV project is the fire station is really the only 24/7, 365 staffed building around the clock. Yes, the police are also open 24/7, but not, we have the dispatcher, so we're staffed in that building. The room they're looking to upgrade the technology in is also the community's emergency operations center. So that means when there's a declaration of an emergency, adverse weather, large-scale event, large parade, like whatever, protest, we'll oftentimes staff that room up. So the technology that's built into that room, it's paramount that it's current day. We have redundancy built into that room. And an even more important piece of information is some of the technology. I know there was a reference to maybe moving some of the older infrastructure over there, but the technology that's in that room to allow us to have a certain amount of redundancy also powers up the dispatch center, the 911 center, as well as the administrative area, which is my office, the deputy chief's office, and our own conference room. So the building is kind of subdivided out with infrastructure to make sure if one goes down, we always have another. It's important for a dispatch center and a fire department. So some of the technology that was suggested maybe move over is probably not a great idea. The technology obviously is not what it was when they built the station in 2014 when we moved in. But I just thought I would answer those questions, seeing as I had the floor right now. If you had any questions about that, I'd be happy to what I'm telling you, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks. So for the capital expenditure or capital improvement plan for the fire department, our first one involves the replacement of the shift commander vehicle. So we have 4 working groups at the fire stations, group 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 11 people assigned to every single group, and there is a captain on every group. The captain is assigned per hour. We didn't always have that when we had a very bad staffing problem. We moved them out of this vehicle, which was not great, but onto apparatus because we couldn't keep up with our call volume. When we were allowed to expand with the ARPA funds, we put them back in this vehicle, and we saw really how advantageous it was for them to be in this command role. So if you look at our organizational assessment that was done in 2018, one of the top things to strive for was having a shift commander and a dedicated vehicle to manage the town. Oftentimes, the fire captain that's in charge is a senior public safety official on duty for the town at nighttime or on weekends when the chief officers are not here. They respond to all critical incidents, all fires, all technical rescue incidents. They are the lead vehicle to get us out to the Massachusetts Turnpike and 495 And oftentimes with the response of that vehicle prohibits us, or allows us to not make a big mistake geographically, which we sometimes would take up to 8 to 16 minutes to recover from, depending on where it is. So it's a very important piece of equipment that we have. So we're looking to replace that vehicle. It is a primary response vehicle. It's responsible for command and control, fire prevention, EMS support, hazardous materials response, and it also serves as our command post for major incidents in town, which happen on a fairly regular basis. So the equipment and what goes into the vehicle is the vehicle itself. There's the cabinetry, and we provided a photo for you to see what that cabinetry looked like. It's custom made to fit into the vehicle with a cap on the back. Right now, the department currently uses a 2016 Chevy Tahoe that's approached 100,000 miles. It's rapidly approaching 100,000 miles. The reason why the transition from a Tahoe to a pickup truck is through science. We have learned that the turnout gear that we wear immediately after an incident is off-gassing into the vehicle. So like the apparatus they have inside fire trucks, they put it in the side compartments. We try not to put contaminated equipment back in the cab of a vehicle anymore. This would allow us to not do that and put it into the back, rather than having them be driving around breathing that stuff inside of a confined space. So we'd be looking for $78,686.40 for the vehicle, $21,894 for the build out of the consoles and the cabinets for the vehicle, $20,400 for the radios. We're gonna equip the vehicle with a modem, internet uplink. We already have drones and a drone unit for our department, and those are instrumental at like particularly hazardous materials incidents. We assist with missing persons as recently as last week, but I'll go back to the hazmat. So when we have an ammonia leak at like Cumberland Farms on Flanders Road, we would oftentimes put firefighters in PPE, breathing apparatus, send them up onto a roof and use meters. Now we can send our drone and watch on a screen. This vehicle would have to replace our meters, thermal imaging equipment, a command board, and then there's some other biometrics monitoring and tools that we would buy for that vehicle. So does that number add up exactly to what we need? No. What we've asked for in the article, it left us $11,000 slush, and here's why. January 1st, the majority of that equipment, starting with the $21,000 and down, there's always a price change effective in that market. We are feeling that I said we took delivery of a fire truck yesterday, and we're feeling that after waiting for almost 4 years for apparatus, that the equipment that we had originally budgeted for is now escalated considerably now that the truck's here. So we're trying to compensate for that, about $5,000 and about $5,000 for everything from the screen, the meters, thermal imaging, and everything from that level down. So that ask was $132,000 to replace that vehicle, and we should expect to get somewhere from 12-ish to 15 years out of that vehicle, which would be used probably 20 to 30 times a day on average. For what the cabinet really looks like, I just put a couple of that. The one on the right is the console for the front, where you see the apex is where our 2 radios would go, and that 2 radios allows us to constantly be on the town of Westborough's frequency, so we can monitor our own apparatus and other occurring incidents in town, which we have overlap every day. You'll hear more about that when I talk about the ambulances, as well as a tri-band radio on the top, which would allow us to talk on people with different frequencies, whether it's UHF, VHF, or 800 trunked, and a lot of our partners, primary stakeholding partners, state police, and abutting towns, they're all on different frequencies. So every time we go to the Mass Pike, we need to be monitoring 800, which we can't listen to Westborough and them at the same time on the same radio, and be trying to switch back and forth while driving to a call, hence the need for 2 radios. And there'll be a control board below that. The back is what the back is the what you saw in the previous picture pulled out of the back and what that looks like for construction. There's also radios, radio heads, not complete radios, in the back of that vehicle, so we can set up a command area when we're operating at any fires or major incidents in town. So we can assemble at a command post and have like an accountability officer, et cetera, working at that dedicated space. And that is very common in the fire service, not unique to the town of Westborough at all. This is standard equipment that is, operated by just about every community that I know of. That's what I have. I have quotes on everything. If you would like me to submit it to the board, so you can have that, I'm happy to hand that to you after to qualify everything that I'm telling you. And that's what I have on my first article. Any questions on that? Do you want to go through the whole thing, or do you want to ask questions after everyone?
Are we okay if we just go through them all and then we can come back?
Yep.
Is that okay with folks?
I only have a presentation on the 2 for this year, and then the rest I will go right through.
Right. Thank you.
Speaking of another car accident, there's one now. So our second article for the fiscal year would be a replace an ambulance. We are seeing about a 4-year delivery time on ambulances. We have ordered one 2 2.5 years ago. We still don't have a chassis number. We don't actually know when that vehicle is coming. I'll talk a little bit about my fleet. So we run 4 paramedic level ambulances assigned to the fire department. We have Medic 1, Medic 2, Medic 3, and Medic 4. So for some history, we have Medic 1 is a 2020 Ford F-550. There's your current mileage, 162,961, with a lot of engine hours on it, 8526. Medic 2 is a 2016 F-550, has approaching 150,000 miles with nearly 7,900 engine hours. Medic 3 is 2023, and you'll see the mileage is lower, and that is because that is the first truck that we took delivery of after all of the delays started, after COVID started. So it's really, we didn't take delivery of that until 2024. So it's been in service for about a year, and it's already at 31,000 miles and 1,500 engine hours. And Medic 4 is a 2018, 132,000 miles, 7,100 engine hours, and it's a 2018 Ford F-550. So you can see, other than the one we took delivery of about a year or so ago, all of our ambulances are creeping up in mileage, not great. 132 being the next lowest one, all the way up to 160. And we were fortunate, we used to replace these on every 3-year cycle. So we keep 3 trucks in service all the time, and we keep 1 out of service to allow us to do preventative maintenance and if we have a mechanical issue. So we don't drop below 3 almost ever in Westborough, and every single day, on average, we pretty much every day we have 3 ambulances on the road, at least at 2 times at least a day. But beyond that, we used to be able to rotate them around a little bit more and have like a primary ambulance, but we don't actually have a primary ambulance anymore. We have like 2 primary ambulances because there's almost never a period of time where there's not a call in progress in town. And frankly, the simultaneous calls, I don't have that number for you, but before we got very busy, it was about 1,000 to 1,100 times a year. I would say it's during the daytime hours, almost all day, and at nighttime, very frequent that we have at least 2 calls in progress. So that's why you're seeing an escalation of mileage and our really inability to kind of rotate vehicles around to control the mileage, because they're always on the road. And even if they're not on multiple calls, we do have turnaround time or transition issues at the hospitals, transferring care and getting out of there. So they're in use, and our unit utilization per hour time is way up. So they are paramedic units. We have a ton of life-saving equipment on them. We have cardiac monitors that do a variety of things besides defibrillate. We can do a pacemaker on a patient. We can monitor end-tidal capnography. We can do 12 lead EKGs and notify cath labs before we even depart a scene, so we can get like a person to open up a vessel for a heart before we even leave your living room in Westborough. Like I said, they're seeing about 5,000 patients a year, at least here in Westborough. Our transport locations have broadened out, which is also contributing to wear and tear and mileage. We used to be pretty much isolated to Worcester and Marlborough, sometimes Milford, but now we're going to Clinton Hospital, we're going to Newton Wellesley, we're going to Framingham, we're going into Boston. We have people with significant disease that are followed by specialists at Boston hospitals, and we used to only be able to bring them to like Framingham and then set up a transfer ambulance to take them the rest of the way. We just take them the rest of the way now and get them to where they're going, because the backlog in the ERs is really, it's impacting patient care. And the last thing is we've gotten to some specialty care where we carry ventilators now, we carry IV pumps, and we're taking some real critical patients from town, that especially out of like Whittier Rehab, they have a lot of vent patients. So the ambulances are highly used, and the wear and tear is great. Our fleet maintenance budget is up because of the amount of hours they're on the road, and our request tonight is for $475,000 to order another one, which, so if it's at March town meeting, I would expect to probably see it in 29 or 30, 2029 or 2030. For the rest of my projects, I have had a forest fire truck on the capital plan for a while, and I keep pushing it back intentionally. So when I got the fire chief's job in 2015, we bought a 1999 F-550 from Northborough that was at its end of life. Our Department of Public Works did a lot of body work on it and painted it for us. Up until last year, it was going great, and we had a catastrophic pump failure, so we couldn't pump water out of the truck. We were able to find one at a nearby town where we bought from them used. Our mechanics were able to retrofit that onto the new truck. However, the truck is also 26 years old. I'm not naive to the fact that we're not going to need to replace it. However, I don't want to spend that kind of money just yet because there's not a lot wrong with the truck now that we've replaced the pump, so I'm just going to keep pushing it back a year until it's absolutely necessary. I know the turnaround time is not as long as like an engine or a ladder. It's probably a couple of years, but right now I'm comfortable running the truck, and that to save some money for the town, I'm not opposed to running that piece of apparatus. You know, we maybe do 50 to 60 brush fires a year. I also have a problem with taking a brand new truck and having to drive it through the woods. So we're using a 99 and it runs okay. We're gonna stick with that for now. The cardiac monitors that I just described to you, that's also on our capital plan, and that is for 2028. Historically, we replace our cardiac monitors about every 9 to 10 years. Gonna repeat myself a little bit. It's just not a cardiac monitor where you're doing 3-lead cardiac monitoring. It is a 12-lead EKG, so we can diagnose if you're actually having a heart attack. We monitor people's end-tidal carbon dioxide if we intubate them, which happens all the time, happened right before I came to the meeting. We can pace people's hearts, so instead of, some people get an internal pacemaker when they have a heart problem. If you're acutely ill in cardiogenic shock, we can externally pace you with this machine in your living room until we get to the hospital. It does non-invasive blood pressure monitoring, pulse oximetry. It's not a very basic machine, and this is also standard equipment for a paramedic service, and that is to replace for our entire fleet, $250,000. We've also originally had this as a placeholder for a satellite fire station on our capital plan, and I would say that that's probably moving closer to fruition in the relatively near future. So historically, if you look back in our master plan, it's been in the old master plan and the new master plan calling for a fire station on the east side of town. So we're talking about 20 years plus that it has been documented in a master plan. It's in the fire department's organizational assessment recommending future expansion of us to the east side of town. It's in the select board's goals and priorities from about 5 years ago. And I have been working, I and the members of my department have been working diligently to try to do everything we can and not ask for tax dollars to get us as far as possible. So we have gotten some mitigation money for a feasibility study, spatial needs analysis. That is done. We have been trying to work with the state, and I think we're making some progress on getting a long-term lease through the state for not a lot. For land, I think that's moving in a positive direction, and we're working with the planning board currently to start to work on if larger projects are coming in town to offset the cost of architecture and design. But for now, that is on the projected on FY28 for $2.55 million for land acquisition and the official design. Like I said, I'm gonna keep trying to work to actually eliminate that, and so it doesn't cost the town anything, and then the construction of about $11.5 million in FY29. For FY30, we will need to start, the last time we replaced our portable radios was 6 years ago, and it was probably the first time in the history of the town that we asked for money to replace portable radios. So when I first got on the department, every truck had one radio, and you had to share it. Well, we break up a lot. We go into mid-risers, these little big box stores, and it didn't work, and it was contributing to actually communication issues. If you read a NIOSH report, which is a report that's done every time there's a firefighter fatality, it recites back to communications. So it's common in the fire service for everyone to have a radio assigned to them. We have those. We replaced them 6 years ago. We're gonna look to start replacing them, not all at once, but like broken up into a system so we don't jam you with $400,000 in radios all at once. So we're looking for 250. I'm using the 400 number for what it cost 6 years ago to get a portion of a significant portion of the department done in FY30. And this is another one I keep pushing back. So we have a water rescue vehicle, and though it's low use, It's also a high-risk vehicle, and I would say that on an average of 2 times a year, we pull somebody out of water in Westborough, whether they're in a capsized boat or for whatever reason, stuck in the cedar swamp. You can probably Google that. So there's equipment on this truck that is not on any other truck. This is a 2004, it was an ambulance that the department members converted. They got supplies at Home Depot and converted into a water rescue vehicle. We have been operating that. We train every single month with it. It operates regionally with 23 cities and towns. The number of 2 was only for Westborough. They probably scuba dive at least twice a month. It's almost at the end of its life, but we are trying to come up with something that's, well, one of these times when we replace an ambulance, if it's in good enough shape, we might try to do the same thing, but we're not 100% sure we can make that happen. So we've pushed this way out on the capital plan. We're gonna try to make that happen with an ambulance when it's not good to be an ambulance, but it can be for something else, low use, that we would get low money on a trade-in. We're gonna revisit that, but if we can't get that accomplished by 2031, we'll probably have to spend money and buy some vehicle. I know it's a low-use vehicle, but it's an important piece of equipment, and it's something we can't just throw into the back of a pickup truck, because it has to be we have a responsibility to be operationally ready. So if somebody's drowning, they don't want to see us picking through the back of a pickup truck trying to find a regulator or a wetsuit or a dry suit or any of the other ropes or any equipment that we have. It has to be organized and ready to deploy, and that's what that vehicle does. End of report.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah.
Sorry, can you just acknowledge?
Oh,
It's not a hybrid meeting, it's not required.
I only have Barbara at this time. I just sent Marie the right link to log in. But Barbara should be able to respond.
Barbara is on, and then Maria is.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. And you got the names for the documentation, or so, as long as you know the names, that's good. All right. Questions? Let's start with the utility vehicle. Any questions for the chief?
All right. So you said there's 4 shift commanders?
Yes, sir.
And is this vehicle used by all of them?
Yes.
So it stays on the lot, and then whenever
Yes.
they come in, so it's not one that they take home or anything?
No,
Okay.
sir.
And then in the estimated project cost by fiscal year, it's got 132 for FY '27, 79.5 in FY '29, and then 84,344 in FY '31. What are those other 2
Those
expenses?
are different vehicles. We have 6 utility vehicles, so we have 2 fire inspectors. We have we have the deputy fire chief, the shift commander is 5. And we have one we got on a grant that is a tow vehicle that tows our foam trailer, our boat trailer, and pretty much those.
So these are for replacements of other
Others,
vehicles?
Yes.
All right.
So the other ones, like the one, the tow vehicle is a 2000 and I think 13 or 14. The fire inspector's vehicles are, one of the fire inspectors is driving the old the previous fire chief's vehicle. I think it's a 2012. And I don't remember the year of the other one, 2016. Yeah.
Okay.
So so the deputy chief and I have take-home vehicles because we respond back here for incidents. Those are the take-home vehicles.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Is this vehicle adding a service? Is it replacing the service, the level of service for the department, or no?
So we're gonna stay the same. We're gonna take the oldest, my mechanic, I know which vehicle. It's probably gonna be the previous fire chief's vehicle. Evaluate that. It's got high mileage and it's 15 or 16 years old. He'll probably, I'm not entirely sure. He has to evaluate the vehicle that they're in now, which is also nearing the end, which one's worse, and we're gonna get rid of one of them. We're replacing, yes. We're replacing a vehicle.
Okay, so it won't require any additional training after you
No,
purchase that?
no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Chief, for the presentation. I guess I have two questions for you. First of all, I'm going to assume that you're familiar with the fact that the police chief is also looking for a utility vehicle. Wondering if you could talk about the relationship between this utility vehicle, how the fire department will manage it on scene with a police utility. Like, how does that relationship work, and what are the differences between how those two vehicles will be used?
Like he's doing a vehicle like this?
Yeah.
It's a command vehicle,
Command
if I'm
vehicle.
not mistaken,
That's
just
a,
because.
no, oh, that's a large communications vehicle.
Yeah.
So what is the relationship between them? I think they're used
I think,
extremely.
well, let me clarify. I think you said there was going to be some command functionality out of that vehicle. So that's where I was
Yep.
where I was headed with it, so.
So the one you're talking about is for an extended period event. What the police one is I believe, an extended period, I don't know enough about it really. An extended period event where they're gonna coordinate with multiple law enforcement agencies. I know they belong to a SEMLEC unit, which is like 85 communities. So if they have a large police incident, I believe that's gonna be deployed to that. Yes, we could use it if we had a long period duration incident in town. Historically, I recently have called for the Department of Fire Services Incident Support Unit, and we used that one for an incident. This is like a day-to-day function. That vehicle that they're doing is not like a quick response thing. This is the one I need to get to the Mass Turnpike. This is goes to every single fire call, a lot of EMS calls, every hazardous materials incident. They're not the same at all. I don't know how to explain it.
No, that makes sense. I just wanted to better understand that
the-
relationship.
The other thing is, jurisdictionally, we don't have the same jurisdictions that we are responsible for. So I don't see that being deployed quickly to the Mass Turnpike or 495 for a rolled over tanker truck.
Point.
Okay, so like we need to, their job is to get there first and establish command and control, evaluate a scene, and set up an incident action plan in their head so they can deploy resources rapidly. That's not a rapid response vehicle. This is a pickup truck. I think that's more like a bus. if I'm not
It's a
mistaken.
large minivan, I want to say, so.
Sure.
Yep. Good. Thank you, Chief. That helps. I just want to make sure when the community hears command vehicle here, command vehicle there.
No, very different. So
But they're different. They're being used in the situations you described. so
I know we're all public safety and we're all a team, but incident command, like we take incident command in every incident where more than one resource is deployed. So that's very well known in the fire service.
Yeah.
Police have police structure that they follow, and I'm not privy to I can't even really comment on that. I don't know how they operate. I know that when they have an incident where it takes both to get together, we would have a unified command post. And if it's a large enough incident that's going to be for a longer period of time, we would probably go into the back of theirs, but I don't use that vehicle. But if it's large enough where their vehicle's going, it's probably going to be Chief Minardi and I operating out of the back of it with our command staff.
My second question is there, and I apologize if you mentioned as you presented this, but is there any auction value for the vehicles that you'll be replacing?
So that's a great question. Yes, we have actually been enlisting this, one company called Municipid. We're looking at a company called Garage right now who seems to be getting a little bit more money, and we're probably going to put either trade in, wherever we get I think we're going to get a better value. So the fire engine that we got yesterday, we're going to put on Garage because we think we can get more money back for the town using that site. We'll probably do the same thing because the trade-in values on these vehicles are not great. And a matter of fact, we did it with the last ambulance. That's a very good story. We actually sold it to an abutting community who had an emergent need for an ambulance. They had none because they all broke. So we sold it to them for what we bought their forestry truck for. It's kind of worked out as a swap. But yes, we're going to auction probably because it's wherever we think we're going to get more money for the town.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I share the questions that he had. I think that there's an opportunity for confusion to hear command vehicles in multiple places, and clearly, the way you explain it, there's a lot of different description. So I would recommend as this request, to the extent it may go out to the larger town, if we could find a way to just present it a little bit differently, name it a little bit differently, because I understand it's utility vehicle here, but referring to two things as command vehicles just runs the risk of some confusion. But thank you. I think you did a great job answering. I didn't have anything else. Anybody else have further questions? Jumping now to the ambulance. Any questions for the ambulance?
One question.
Yeah.
How do you look at the at the planned residential development in our town, you know, how will that impact the need for ambulances?
So we have a formula that we use that has been spot on. It's also vetted by the Pulte developers that came into town. Depending on the type of occupancies that they build, we average 0.32 calls per year per unit. So that's where I plan. That's my job. That's what you pay me for. So I can expect that increase for a call volume for residential expansion.
I guess my question would be, at some point, do you think we will need to purchase another vehicle, not to maintain 4, but actually go to up to 5?
Probably at some point. I don't know that I think we're several years from that, but yeah, I believe so at some point. We'll probably. So the problem, here's how it all kind of operates. So the fire department has 50 firefighters. Okay, we are all either EMTs or paramedics. 35 of us are paramedics, 15 are EMTs. So we all do both jobs. There's not a section that just does the ambulance and a section that does the fire truck. It's what gives us diversity in our workforce. So you don't come in and do the same thing every day. So I could be on the ambulance today, the ladder truck tomorrow, and the engine the next day. So you get to kind of bounce around. So you have to really be good at all three, and which they're exceptional at all three. But it also, you don't get burned out just doing the high volume ambulance nonstop. So you get to move around. And right now, I don't want to give the illusion that we're staffing all three. So when I staff the third ambulance, the ladder truck is closed, or 2 people come off of the engine out of the 4. So there's 2 people assigned to the ladder truck and 4 people assigned to the engine. So when if we're at minimum staffing and the second ambulance goes out, the ladder truck is closed. The third ambulance goes out, 2 people come off of the engine, and we're left with 2 people left on the fire truck. So yes, probably at some point, we're paying close attention to the residential growth, and if that goes up, you will hear back from me.
Thank you very much.
Is space for another ambulance considered for the future fire department?
Yes,
We're
sir.
talking about bays, okay. So I think when we talk about just raw capacity, because throwing another vehicle, it has to go somewhere. So I'm glad to know that's part of the conversation.
So when we built that fire station, we were doing approximately 3,000 calls a year. Now we're pushing 6,000 calls a year. We're at the limits of that fire station. There's no more room for growth in the current fire station.
Thank you, Chief. I had a couple of questions about the ambulance. So first, could you talk for just a moment about the ambulances are really unusual in this town in as much as they provide a net revenue to the town. And how does that offset the cost of the purchase of the vehicles? Is it a direct funding link?
Yep, so there's a portion that comes out of our ambulance revenue that goes into a revolving account or a reserve for appropriation account to replace ambulances. So I have a fortunate to have a good relationship with the finance director and the town manager, and we sit down regularly and we look at the escalating cost of those vehicles, and quite frankly, recently we've adjusted that cost to accommodate the future purchase. So when we do ambulance calls, we set a certain amount of money aside, and that money is used to buy ambulances.
So just to clarify, there's $200,000 a year that's set aside from those receipts into ambulance reserves. And I think you'll see that one of the other funding sources is listed as ambulance reserve receipts.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to surface that. The other question I had is, as you move from one ambulance to another, obviously a lot of the equipment migrates as well. So when you're talking about the cost for the new ambulance, does that factor in the fact that we'll be taking some of the equipment off of the old ambulance, or is there an opportunity to not spend as much if we could, carry over equipment?
That price is just for the ambulance. We take all of it.
Okay. So I guess then the question would be, if you're getting a new ambulance, there is no need for additional equipment, the radios or anything else like that?
No, that's not, let me back up on that.
Okay.
So there is a need, because depending on how the cabinetry is configured, sometimes we have to buy the storage equipment for it, but no, we don't regularly replace our power load.
Yeah.
However, we need to from time to time, so you'll see those costs put in there. Every time we buy an ambulance, if the power load is in good shape, we won't replace that. The stretchers, we don't replace every single time, but when they near the end of the life, and a lot of this stuff is dictated by the Department of Public Health and manufacturers, so then you would hear back from us. We have been fortunate you've recently replaced our, or added our ventilators. So at some point, you'll see us come back unless we can seek alternative funding, which you'll see actually if you, in my plan, under the cardiac monitors, we're pursuing grant money to do those. So it's always been the fire department's goal to look at our capital improvement plan and target those items. So to answer your question, that money is for the ambulance, it's for some basic equipment, but it's not for the expensive stuff. It's not for the IV pumps, the ventilators, the cardiac monitors, or the power load, or the stair chairs. That's really, the expensive stuff, the equipment would be like the radios, and we're required to have two, one in the front for the operator and one in the back for the paramedics to call the hospital. So that's what I mean by equipment. We wouldn't eliminate all of it, and this is kind of the way we've always done business buying ambulances. There might be a better way if they did buy a new monitor and power load and pumps and all that stuff with every ambulance. Maybe that's a better way, because then you wouldn't see $250,000 for monitors. The downside to that is we end up with 4 models of monitors that the paramedics have to be trained on to remember how to operate, which is not great.
So then the cost here, strictly the vehicle and some of the basic communications equipment?
Yes.
All of those other expenses, I'd imagine, would come up under your regular budget, which we approve as part of, there's a line in there for equipment, so I'd
So
imagine.
the higher value stuff, we do usually do as an article
Okay, that's true.
historically, but this time we put the monitors in
Okay.
the capital plan. We did the vents 2 years ago at town meeting, the vents and, I don't remember, something else.
All right.
I don't remember what the other
Thank
thing was
you, Chief.
anymore. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Chief, really appreciate your presentation. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for your time.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda has to do with the discussion of the plan, the next steps. Are you going to be, I don't see Christie, so.
Sorry, so yeah, Christy couldn't be here, so she asked me to attend. I think it sounds like what's been communicated. The last piece of this is for you to prepare and submit the rating spreadsheet, which is due to her by 8 a.m. on Monday, December 8th. And then she will compile everything and have it ready to share out at your meeting on Wednesday, the 10th. So I think that is the last piece of business for you all.
So for those who have started going through it, are there any questions that have come up? My experience has been in the past, just so long as you're internally consistent, then the way that different people come to these things can be aligned pretty comfortably, because they will still, bump up against each other for priority the same way, so.
And
Thank you.
just a reminder, the emails that you send just to Christie, not to anyone else on the committee.
Okay, yes, good catch. The next item is the next steps finalization.
I think 3 and 4 are pretty much, it's
Yeah, I thought so.
the same.
Okay. And then the timing, I guess, just to take this then, after we meet on the 10th, we'll be able to go through and view where we're drawing our cutoff line for what we accept, what we don't.
Right.
And this will also be, I think we have the funding already designated in the spreadsheet, so in case you have questions.
Yeah, I think for those of you who have been on the committee in the past, what's a little bit different this year is prior to the projects coming to you, there was actually review by staff. Christy, John, and I went through, met with department heads, and were able to put projects in a way that they, for lack of a better way, everything fits in this year funding-wise relative to what is laid out in the financial, the comprehensive financial policies in terms of funding. So that is something we hadn't previously done. So when we met with the department heads, there were a few things that got shifted just to make sure that if one year was heavy, one year was light. So when you're looking at things, everything fits, if you will, relative to the recommended funding amount or budget through the policies. But definitely, as you look at the projects, you're really evaluating them. Like, do you think this project is worthy of bringing forward?
And just to add to that, I guess to clarify, if you approved all of them, we would be within our fiscal management policies.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the goal when we work through the long-term capital, is to maintain that from year to year. If other things come up, the goal would be to push other stuff so that we can maintain and know and stay within that 1 to 1.5%. Whereas previously, we were much more concerned about that, and we had to consider some projects over others. Now that we have that longer-term plan, we can schedule and know exactly what we have, and understanding that our general fund budget is going to change, so that's sort of a moving target. All we can do is forecast.
So, and with that in mind, and I think this came up when I talked to you to pull up that spreadsheet, and I want to thank you again publicly for the work you did to put together the 20-year plan for the funding around the roofs, the A and B roof for the high school. But I also know, without knowing that we didn't discuss things out of committee, which is, open meeting, that didn't happen, but I know questions came up. And I think what was stressed when we spoke, and what I think I just want to make sure as folks go through and realize is that the goal of this meeting is in part just to make sure that we're aligned on the value of the projects that are being brought before us, and that the funding shouldn't be the deciding factor. That being said, I know that there was, I think it was suggested there may be a difference of several $1 million if we were able to push the roofs for funding, and I just wanted to make sure we had the numbers to make an informed understanding of what those differences were. That being said, the school, and you're obviously welcome to speak for it, but I won't call you here unless you'd like. The school made the case for why they believed that this was time sensitive enough now to bring to us, and the funding was provided for that. That being said, it's several $1 million. There is a difference of costs if this is bumped to SBA and the timing for that. So if folks had questions, Allison, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you're amenable.
If I could just add a comment before Allison steps in.
Of course.
Just to clarify, the rating schedule is to rate the project as presented. And so you determine where you believe that would fall within the rating schedule. The funding aspect of it is sort of a different component. Like the other roofs that they're presenting, those are scheduled to take into account the MSBA as presented in that way. This is as presented in this way, knowing that it would be a borrow.
Thank you.
I do have a question about the rating, but
I'm happy to throw this.
while Allison just came up,
Yes.
we can let her speak and I'll come back.
So I guess, there was a request by the committee to sort of look into risk assessment and kind of really understanding in a deeper way, is there a kind of a way to get a clearer timeline on the potential for roof failure? And the answer is no. So I'm coming back to you to basically say the schematic design, which is a very thorough document, it's a 200-page report based on an investigation of the roof. That is the risk assessment. And, we went and talked with the architects and they said, you're not going to hear anybody, I think for reasons of liability and so forth, that's going to come on record and say it's going to fail next year, not this year. So they provided us the best information that they could, and I think they did a very thorough and thoughtful job. I don't think that they believe, and we certainly don't believe, that pushing the timeline is wise. I think that roof is well past the time when replacement should have happened. There are some significant flaws in it, and it's, as much as I think the MSBA process is a draw, we are looking at ways of using that in other ways and working with the town on funding sources when it's appropriate. But in this case, in terms of looking at risk assessment, the information we got back is you have the risk assessment. So.
And I'll just add, relative to any incurred debt, not to go too far down into the weeds in this, but any thought to bonding versus short-term, our policy and strategy is to have as minimal impact in interest and principal payments as we can, which is why we have our debt strategy and why we work to roll short-term while we do principal pay downs as we go. So it's not always that straight line, principal and interest as is estimated, because we don't know what interest rates are going to be. So it's something that's managed year to year.
I would just say thank you, Allison, for doing that additional homework on the risk assessment. It helps me better understand kind of what the opportunity is to have cost avoidance in regards to the borrow. So I appreciate that work. Thank you.
No problem. And, you know, we did provide some additional information about the kind of renovate versus replace. I think what we are hearing from people who have done that, and there's a growing list of communities who have used this process throughout the state. Anita actually put together a list of a lot of communities that have started to look into this option for a bunch of reasons. One is that the option actually produces really excellent results in terms of a lack of leakage and things like that. Secondly, it actually reduces landfill impact. So I think that is a real consideration when we look to those other roof projects down the line. And we are looking for looking to put those on the warrant now so that we can pursue MSBA funding for those projects. And the MSBA has gotten on board, I think, in part because of their focus on sustainability. So I think it's kind of an interesting piece of the puzzle. And then I think we also wanted to answer some questions about other possible work that can come up and other possible work to be done when we do the project. The current project scope includes replacement of insulation, making the roof solar ready, that portion of the roof, and some other incidental plumbing and mechanics that might come up. It does not include a lot of HVAC work, and that may be something that we need to investigate more thoroughly for down the road. I think doing this project has made us aware we do have aging equipment up there that we probably should look at how to fold into the long-term capital plan. But this is a roof project, not an HVAC project. So that's that.
And if I may ask, the fold into the capital plan, would that also mean trying to plan far enough ahead so that these could be MSBA presented going forward, or things like that not MSBA appropriate?
So MSBA has two types of projects. One is their accelerated repair program, which really deals with the envelope, so doors, windows, roofs. It does not currently include HVACs unless there is a sustainability element, so moving away from a chiller to a heat pump system, for example. And you know, we looked into that a little bit in looking at Mill Pond, which is going to need a replacement down the road. But the reality is, because the system is built one way, trying to flip it to another can escalate the price, you know, tenfold. So that didn't seem like a viable option for us. The other process for MSBA is the one you're familiar with here, is the school building project, which is the soup to nuts kind of project that was used for fails. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? We feel like we're equipped to answer what we need to?
Well, I just had a question on the rating. Sorry, I didn't have a question for Allison.
I'm going to head across the street because I have another meeting to get to. So
Thank you so much for taking your time. Appreciate you guys joining us.
So being new to this part of the process, I guess my question is, we go through these couple dozen requests, we score them, we end up with a number. Does this committee at some point set a bar, a line that if the score is above this, it moves forward, if it's below? How does this work? I want to understand, like, is it by department? For example, the DPW has most of their items are rated as number one. Does that factor into the tie breaking or anything like that? I'm just curious how that works.
And so the way it's worked in the past was once the scores there was discussion. There was never a hard and fast line drawn ahead of looking at it. The difference, again, in the past, that was done because I mean, Andrew, if you have a different perspective, but my perspective, we would prepare it, and you typically would have a few projects that would fall out, be more, have a lower rating. And there was typically discussion because there were generally projects that needed to be passed over because the dollar value of the projects exceeded what we expected to have available funding-wise. So it was outside of what the recommended amount is per the policy. This year, that is different. So we're not looking to cut any of the projects based on feeling like we're beyond what the comprehensive policy calls for. What I think the discussion would be, if there are any projects that people feel strongly are not worth bringing forward as part of the capital plan.
Okay, and we'll see
So,
we'll see an average, I would imagine we'll see like an average scoring come back to
Yes.
us?
Yes.
You know, it scored 22 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
for each one. Okay.
And to that point, I think this is the first year that I think that the scoring doesn't seem to really make any difference, because what we're calling out here is egregiousness. Like, if somebody feels something absolutely shouldn't be there, that's the conversation to be had. And in the past, the scoring did come in. I mean, in every year I've been there, there's been something that did fall off. So it makes me curious about how we migrated to this place, but that's not within the scope of this conversation.
Right. I think one of the benefits is, and having previously staffed this committee, I think that discussion, there's value in it, because you're recommending to the town manager what the FY27 capital budget should include. The next step in that, those projects have to go before town meeting. And I think I always took some of the discussion that happened by this committee as helpful and useful to share back to the department heads and say, hey, these were the questions, concerns, positives that were discussed by the committee. Like, think about how you might address some of these issues or concerns when you go before town meeting, because you may have the same questions. So I think there's that value in some of the discussion, and if you raise concerns, because sometimes it's, the department head can fine tune the message or better explain why this is they believe it's a necessary, addition or replacement or whatever it is.
And there's definitely value in that, but at this point, technically, we're just here to approve what the town has given us versus being critical evaluators of sort of what
You're
may or may
critically
not.
evaluating if you think the project should be recommended.
Sure, but that doesn't require a 9-point score,
No, but I think, the scoring is really a rubric to get the temperature of the group as a whole.
Yeah.
So if you have an outlier, right, that's the one you really need to discuss, or someone's got an issue with. And so this will really give you a sense of the group,
Sure.
And so that brings it all together for the nature of the conversation. When you can see, okay, someone is rating, everything a 2, right? And you can find out why they're rating everything a 2. But you want to get a sense of the temperature of the room, I think, and that's what that's about.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, there's one more set of meeting minutes. Were people able to read those?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes of November 25th, 2025.
Second?
Any comments? All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Do we have people on the phone?
We do, but
Just
We have to do a roll
message
call
or?
if we have people on the phone.
Yeah, if they need to it needs to be a roll call vote if they're still on.
okay. So is everybody on the phone?
Unmute them.
Barbara just raised her hand.
Well, it does have to be roll call, okay. Barbara, this is for
A roll call
roll-
vote, yep, to approve the minutes.
to approve the minutes. So,
Can you unmute Barbara and just have her,
She is unmuted.
Can you hear me?
is she acknowledging in some way that you deem it to be she's,
Can you hear me?
I hope we're in discussion for the minutes.
Complexities of technology.
She said she's talking, but we can't hear her.
And she raised
Hello?
it to acknowledge.
So she
we
raised
just-
her hand to,
Can we just table that until the next meeting?
yeah, that's a good idea. This is just taking a long time just to approve minutes, so. We'll table this to the next meeting. I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved?
Second?
Need a roll call vote on the approval for adjournment. Barbara?
is she acknowledging that she hears the,
she's acknowledging that she
Okay.
can hear, but we
Okay.
can't hear.
that's,
John? Jacob?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
is Marie on as well?
She is on, but she's not acknowledging.
They can be abstentions.
Marie, so, it's just a non-response.
Abstain.
It's not an abstention. Andrew's yes, so that puts us at 601.
What happens, you can't adjourn, you can't.
We'll be here forever. We're gonna sleep here.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.